Hello again, this is Aaron Perry from CRMCS. Today we're going to be talking about how to manage the complexity of your topics in Power Virtual Agents. So on my screen I just have a small bot which I've made a couple of modifications to about a month ago. So we've got some of the default topics that come in just down the bottom here. These are pre-built in with Microsoft, which you can use to see the different complexities that can be built. So I do recommend going into those and just taking a look at how they work. So we've got very simple to a topic with loads of variables and conditions added together. So check those out first. Secondly, you can see how we've got greeting, end of conversation, confirm success, goodbye, thank you. They're very small topics, but you can see how they can be repeated in the customer flow many times over. And what we want to do when we're creating our topics is to kind of replicate that methodology. First off, plan. You always have a plan. You get your start in your topic triggers. You plan what question is going to come first and where that could lead to. And you need to make sure you manage how many conditions you're having off of each other, because it can very quickly turn into a big spider web, and you don't want that. As you are planning these conditions, try to identify patterns in where they can come back together. And so as you're making these ends of conditions, try and merge them back into the pathway that will lead to the conclusion that you want, if that makes sense. You don't want to be repeating code in multiple different places. So when we have a topic going through it and the topic's about to end, we want it all to go into one node saying on end of conversation rather than 10 different end of conversations. So we want to keep these topics in smaller chunks. How would you do that? So say a customer was buying something from your website. The first part of the topic would be choosing a product. And then the second bit would be purchasing the product. And the third bit would be the review or the feedback section. So when choosing the product, they can choose multiple products. They could be buying a laptop online, they could be buying a TV, they could be buying anything that you're selling on your e-commerce website. So each of these will have their own topics, and then they would all relate to buying a product. So you won't have to rewrite that buying the product bit again, because you would just have it as a smaller topics on its own that will get reused. And so it's making smaller chunk topics rather than big, complex, and being able to reuse those chunks. Use global variables as well. So global variables are extremely helpful in keeping your conversation streamlined. Here you can see a variable that I am getting from them, and that's just a yes or no answer. So that would not be a global variable, but here I'm asking for a time slot that they wish to choose. And then I put that selected time slot into a global variable, which then can be used later on when we're trying to arrange a meeting and they've chosen their time slot. So a worry around using global variables is if you've determined a global variable and then used it in a different topic later on, it could break if it turns off. But as you can see here, this one is now off. And then I get errors appearing in the other topics showing me that these are related. The system will pick this up. So it's a lot harder to accidentally break it. So if I did turn this back on, you'll see that these errors here will disappear. I'll just do a refresh there. We'll let that load. So lastly, you need to review your chat logs. And I mean, don't just use the analytics. I would say manually review, because you may be getting an okay customer experience where it doesn't get caught in the analytics. So it'll be good to personally see exactly how your conversations are going. You could just pick random conversations that are being had, and then just be able to manually pick up on any parts of your customer experience that are not working as you would like it. Secondly, there is the analytical tool that you have where you can use the customer feedback that is given to you. Just to show you, these errors are now gone because it's now picking up the global variable is now getting declared at some point. So in the analytics tool, what you can pick up is it's like a 1 to 5 star rating of the customer experience. If it's a 1, then you know that's where you need to try and customize and make your user experience better. If it's a 5, then you're doing superb at that topic. That can be a really quick way to determine where you need to streamline and piece together a better flow. But yeah, it's a very general topic. It's a very general conversation around how complex and how small you can get it. I have been one to fall into the trap of having a giant string of conditions, but you can get away with it so long as you make sure you can bring all those conditions back into a singular point. I think the biggest I had was like 54 different paths off of a question, and then all 54 paths went back into a solution, and then I looped back around. So I think I could probably find that for you. So just going on from that, here is the example that I was explaining. Here, if I zoom in, you can see this looks big and very complex, but it is not. It goes down a simple flow. We ask a question. Here I give a list which they can either type or they can select from a scroll list. And once they select, it splits off into many different parts of bits of information. Then they all go into the same question down here. Sorry. And then if it has answered their question, we end the conversation. If their question is not answered, they can either try again or request another piece of information from this database, or it will go into a confirmed failure. But if you've got these all configured well enough, you should never go into the confirmed failure. If you do start going into the confirmed failure, you'll be able to pick it up on your analytics, and you'll know that this is a section that you then need to come back and optimize. So I hope this shows you the difference between your simple and complex topics, and that the complex topics can be fine-tuned to flow in a simple fashion, with an easy way to see if it's working well and where it needs customization. I will be back next week to talk more about the analytics tool in Power Virtual Agents. Thank you very much.